RC45, Honda RC45 750 superbike engine. So these are
shiny pistons.
Yeah, exactly. They're very nice, and they're actually machined up. They're not like cast, them, are they?
No, they're forged and then machined.
Right.
So yeah, they're as good as you're going to get those. But I mean, these pistons are actually 22 years old.
Yeah. It's had a new set of crankcases.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Managed to find a brand new set of crankcases. It was a bit annoying, really, because in '98 when we were running these in the British Championship, we were desperate for some new crankcases, and
right.
Honda said we haven't got any.
They do look. I know it sounds a bit bizarre, but they do look. The heads and that, it looks a bit simpler than the RC30.
It's different. These are, in my opinion, are far superior to the RC30s.
Yeah.
The RC30s are good engines.
Yeah.
But as far as for the time, these are a lot better. The main difference is the cam drive is at the side rather than in the middle.
Of course, yeah. I never thought of it like that.
30 bits over there, which makes the engine a little bit more compact as well. But it also opens up, you've got more space to put bigger valves in, and there's actually it's a bigger head. They're incredible things. They're like, you wouldn't believe how much work they put into them. They've got different valve angles, and
did they?
The whole thing's CNC machine.
Different heads completely then. Yeah.
Well, they're actually the same casting. Like I say, to see one, you won't believe how much work they put in. The machine, all the inside of the head away, and then weld an insert into it, which has got the different valve angles in, and so of course because it's different valve angles, the cams are in a different position.
Everything changed, and that's just to steepen up the head. They get a flatter pistons essentially. Yeah, because I suppose these were like a transition motor in the sense that the head design was coming on and the valve angles were getting steeper and steeper all the time, weren't they?
Yeah. Honda have got this system now where if you order something, they'll tell you whether it's in stock or not, and even if it's not in stock, they've got a system that searches all the Honda dealers for it, just in case they've got some
there's
new
just some
stock.
on the shelf somewhere. Yeah. Was it started to make noises?
Yeah, this is the crank that they went out testing on it, and it seized up basically on the big end.
Yeah.
And the reason it seized up is because if I show you falling down rather, see all the wear on the edge of that. The face of it, that groove shouldn't be there. It should be a flat surface.
That should be flat?
Yeah, like the other side.
Oh.
What's been happening is, those are arrow rods.
Yeah.
And it's been loaded up against the crank web.
So it's been doing that sort of thing?
It out. Yeah. That's not an arrow crank, that's an earlier one, which should still be good actually. But that's been used, and eventually it's worn out. But what happens is it starts, as soon as you get through the hardening on that, because it's like a titanium alloy, it just machines metal off it as it's running, and it all gets into the shell.
Oh yeah, that don't last long then, does it? No.
It just ruins the shell, and then you lose once the shell's worn badly, you then lose your oil pressure, and it compounds the problem, and then it'll just seize up and
quickly,
spin a shell, and picks up, you can see.
Alright, it's discoloured to hell, isn't it?
Made a bit of a mess of it, knackered it basically.
Yeah, it's not pleasant, is it?
Well, as you can see, all the pistons are quite badly worn as well, so.
It looks like it's actually seized there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has, It's because there's no thermostats in them.
So it was probably a bit cold and
it was probably, it's like a cold seizure. But we have to buy the rings separately. Now, fortunately, the rings that are in this now are YZF 750 rings, which are still available. Nearly all the piston rings in the world are made in Japan. And the ones that are made in Japan aren't very good.
Right.
So everybody uses, and there's not many manufacturers of them either, because it's a very specialised thing.
Perhaps it's got two compression and one oil ring.
And I'm going to say some of the rings, some of the pistons that you get for these, some of the race kit pistons, the race ones, have got a single ring in them, yeah. So they tend to use a little bit of oil, but it's not a problem, for any racing.
That's just to get rid of friction, isn't it?
Yeah. Plated
Why did they go
balls.
for like Teflon? Oh.
It's a good question. That I wondered. We've not done anything with that. I guess it's quite an old design as well, but
yeah.
I've never really seen
Because
it too much.
that to me is quite a big skirt. I mean,
Yeah, it was quite an old-fashioned piston, really.
Yeah. I know that I was racing a 450 Yamaha single.
Yeah.
Sort of a single.
Yeah.
And they're obviously quite big pistons, and the skirts, it was just a top hat.
Yeah.
You know, there was virtually nothing to stop the piston cracking.
And they're very narrow where the pin is, aren't they? So they can run a very small pin.
Incredible.
So there's no material on the outside. Yeah. But it's all to save weight as well.
Yeah.
Piston. Because if you can make that lighter, you can rev it harder, and there's not as much strain on the rod. And